Where is he? Where did he go? I want to find the mentalist that decided to put out trash, and I want to rattle his cages. Let me at him. My friends, this is what I love about magic and mentalism, the niche. This is so specific that I'm sure you haven't come across this, but I decided to make a video because I want you to become aware of this wondrous resource of mentalism. Now, I do warn you, this episode does get fairly virginal as I go deep into the niche that is within a niche. Now, for some time now, I've been reading reviews on the Magic Cafe, and I came across this individual that refers to himself as David, and he leaves these wonderfully eloquent, long-winded, well-researched reviews for mentalist items. Now, recently, David has had a problem with the Magic Cafe in that they began censoring his posts because he's been exposing too much. They said, hey, David, we love your reviews, but unfortunately, they're saying too much about methods. And we know that in the internet age, it's very difficult to come across these well-guarded secrets of mentalism, so we're gonna censor your reviews. And you know what David said? That's right, fuck you, Magic Cafe. You think you're gonna censor my work? You think you're gonna tell me what I can and can't write just because I'm talking a little bit about certain methods here or there? I'm improving your website as a whole. I'm gonna take my business elsewhere. And he did take his business elsewhere to his own blog that he calls the Mind Oracle. You could easily find this on mentalismreviews.com. And oh boy, is it worth your time in investing in his work. Now, David is a secretive figure. He's someone that doesn't share his identity, but I know who it is. I'm not going to say who it is. Suffice to say, it's someone that I've been a huge fan of for many, many years now. Now, if you look at his website, it's pretty bare bones, but it doesn't need to be anything fancy. It's exactly what it needs to be. And trust me, it's well worth your time. Now, the reason I call him the Batman of Mentalism, where is he? Is because you know Batman. You've seen the Robert Pattinson movie. He's there in the shadows, hiding, waiting for somebody to make a mistake in the mentalist community. And the moment they make a mistake, the moment they trip up on the words, guess what? He's there. Does he kill you? No, that would be way too easy. What he does is that he maims you. He hits you with a clothesline so hard that your neck loses its place in your body and you now have to be confined to a wheelchair. But he makes you know that you've done something wrong. And the way he does it is so eloquent, so well written, so well researched that you have no attempt at a rebuttal. One of these reviews is on an item called On the Shoulders of Giants by Joe Miller, which is a book, and he goes over different takes, different approaches, different theories on his approach to mentalism. What I love about David and his work is his ability to dissect you using your own words. He goes over his thoughts and feelings over the book itself and why it's really not his cup of tea, and the different contradictions that Joe goes over and how one philosophy directly goes against another philosophy. And it's all very good and very well written here. Now, of course, Joe Miller wasn't necessarily happy with his review and he sends him an email. He says, hey, these are why your points were incorrect. Now, does David just stand back and take it? No, he hides there in the shadows and waits for this precise moment when Joe sends him an email, and then he decides to retort with another blog post. The blog post is aptly titled, Joe Miller is not happy. And oh, my friends, he was definitely not happy. Now, it's one thing to reinforce your points, right? I get that. It's understandable. You're going to reinforce what you mentioned in your review. You're going to say, hey, this is the reason I think of this. But when you use the opposition's own words against them, and you just manage to chop them down in a way that maims them and makes sure that they're going to remember you for the rest of their life, that's an art in and of itself. And I suggest you read this post, as long as it might be, because he goes over every single point that Joe made in his email, and he refutes every single point that Joe made in his email. My biggest fear in life is coming up with something in the mentalism community and be taken down by this individual that refers to himself as David, to be killed by this individual in the form of a blog post. I sweat in the middle of the night, waking up at the thought of David posting a long-winded review and breaking down what it is that I did wrong and almost turning my butthole from what could be a normal-sized anus to a massively engorged sphincter. As a matter of fact, right now, the thought of me coming up with something that's vaguely mentalism related and having David have me within his crosshairs is making me sweat profusely. Now, what really stands out about David and his work is that he names names.
You got me blacklisted at Hop Sings? She named name.
He's not just talking in vagaries. He's going out here and saying, hey, Jerome Finley, you're a scumbag. You stole hundreds of dollars with your mediocre work, and I'm still waiting for your product. Hey, Neil Scryer, Why is it that you claim to be this wonderfully eloquent mentalist that charges thousands and thousands of dollars for your lectures, and then when I saw your lecture, you're fumbling around, you're stumbling, you don't know what you're doing, you're disorganized? What's up with that? So all I wanted to do with this video is let anyone that's watching this know that this is a must read if you are vaguely interested in mentalism. What this allows you to do is to understand through David's words that it's important that you credit. It's important that you do your research. Now, some people might say that it does go too far in terms of crediting because you're having to go and ask people and you're having to wait before you actually put something out. But it's all worth it at the end, because what David's trying to instill is the idea of worth when it comes to mentalism. Let's go back to the time when the things that were put out weren't just put out for a quick buck, but were put out because they were worth something, because they were valuable. And I think there's a lot of merit in that. And unfortunately, with the younger generation that's coming up, they're really muddling and diluting where it came from. They're claiming to come up with all these different ideas and saying, hey, this is something that I came up with, without even realizing or acknowledging the fact that we did come from somewhere. We are standing on the shoulders of giants, and it's important to know those giants, because if you don't know those giants, then you're just stepping on the art. Now, I'm sure that there are certain people that he's directly targeted that aren't necessarily as big of a fan of his as I am, but I think that even if he happens to have you within his crosshairs, there's a lot to be said about his words, and he is someone that's had a lot of experience in the world of magic and mentalism, and is definitely worth his weight in gold. There's something to be said about the way that David just chops you down and makes you realize that you're this tall. That makes me a little bit erect, and I hope that I could pass that off to you guys, metaphorically. So I just wanted to direct some traffic to his way, because I feel like a lot of his work is going unnoticed. You really have to have been following him from the Magic Cafe and then followed his work to the Mind Oracle in order to really appreciate his stuff. And I don't think a lot of people have done that. He's not really a social media guy, so he's not advertising anywhere other than his previous views on the Magic Cafe and whatever traction he gets from the Mind Oracle blog. But hopefully this video changes that. I get some eyes on his stuff, and more people appreciate the dedication and the craft that this man is putting in the world of mentalism. And of course, David, if you're watching, I love you. I'm very scared of you. Please don't hurt me. I'd love to come up to you in a magic convention and let you know that I know that it's you, with like a code word. Like I come up to you and I go, ha, dude. You're that dude from the thing.